Like Stephanie White has given us an update on the Indiana Fever carousel of injured players. Guys, for this one here,
Caitlin Clark is finally making her comeback, and the confirmation came straight from Coach Stephanie White herself. After Sophie Cunningham's injury and Lexie Hull rocking two black eyes like a warrior, White revealed what Fever fans have been waiting for. Clark is officially returning. This changes everything. Suddenly, the league has to brace for the noise. Does Caitlin Clark stepping back on the court now make the Fever a legitimate playoff threat? This season, the Indiana Fever have been held together with duct tape and sheer hope. Just when it looked like they were finding a rhythm, another injury hits. Cunningham goes down. Lexie Hull takes a shot to the head, ends up with two black eyes, but refuses to sit out, tougher than half the league combined. Add Arie McDonald being unavailable, and the rotation starts to look like a patchwork quilt. Naturally, all eyes turn to Caitlin Clark. Fans have been desperate for updates, dissecting every photo, every sideline outfit, every tiny clue. Now, Stephanie White has delivered. Clark's return isn't just on the horizon, it's imminent. She's been practicing, shooting, and easing back into the grind. And with her teammates battered and bruised, the timing couldn't be more critical.
Last time we talked here, you was here, we talked about the positioning, and you said the toughest position is point guard. Now you've had 2 point guards to go down, and you brought in Odyssey at a good time. Can you talk about her coming to joining the team and how you see her now helping you in this time in the season?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I think her ability to get downhill, her ability to get to the rim and play make for herself and others, it's what we needed. We needed somebody who could come in and who could take some pressure off of Kelsey in a way that Arie did, and being another person who can get downhill. And then Shea as well. Shea, in particular, when we lost Sophie, we needed somebody else who could get us organized.
Now, let's break down why this matters so much. The Fever without Clark aren't hopeless, but they aren't exactly striking fear into anyone either. Kelsey Mitchell has been shouldering the scoring load. Aaliyah Boston has her dominant nights, but the offense sputters when Clark isn't out there, stretching defenses and threading passes nobody else can even see. The Fever without Clark? Just average. The Fever with Clark? A completely different animal.
Get us into offense, get us into the right positions. So it's always hard when you lose point guards, and for us, now this is the think about Caitlin and her not being back yet, and Arie and Sid, having Odyssey and Shea coming in at this time of year is tough, and I think that they've both answered the call.
Stephanie White even acknowledged that the team's margin for error is slim to none. That's coach speak for. We need our star back ASAP if we're going to compete. And she's right. This isn't just about surviving games anymore. It's about pushing for the playoffs. Without Clark, maybe they steal 1 or 2 wins against weaker teams. With Clark, suddenly they can beat anyone on the right night. Now, about Lexie Hull, her interview was the very definition of toughness.
Lexie, obviously, she had that big knot in her head on Tuesday and it's developed into those 2 black eyes. Just what was your reaction to seeing that develop?
I mean, just smiling, really, and every time I see her, I'm like, oh, poor Lexie. But I think it really epitomizes Lexie's toughness when you look at her and you see those 2 black eyes. I mean, she is tough as nails. She plays all out every possession all the time. And sometimes the result is 2 black eyes. And so I smile every time I see her. But it definitely is a picture-perfect viewpoint of the toughness that she brings.
She straight up admitted she was worried about her looks, knowing a photo shoot was scheduled the day after the injury, but then laughed it off as the swelling bloomed into 2 black eyes.
Because it's not doing great. I wish this was a filter. But this is insane. This is what I look like.
Makeup covered some of it, but she joked that the cameras would have to fix the rest in post-production. That's Lexie for you. She doesn't complain, she just plays. And Stephanie White even said every time she sees Lex's face, she smiles because it's the perfect example of what Lexie brings: grit, effort, and heart.
Oh, and there's Lexie Hull. You can see both of her eyes.
But even with Hull pushing through, the Fever were bleeding bodies. Sophie Cunningham out. Chloe Baby in and out with leg issues. Odyssey Sims filling in at point guard, but clearly not a long-term solution. That's why Stephanie White talking about Clark's status was so important. She didn't just say she's progressing. She confirmed she's been back in shoot-arounds, working with the team, and the return is officially on the calendar. And here's the thing, this isn't just good news for the Fever. It's good news for the entire league. Whether you love Clark or hate her, she moves the needle. Ratings jump when she plays. Arenas fill when she's on the schedule. Even opposing teams sell out tickets just because Clark is coming to town. Her return is not just a Fever boost. It's an economic boost for the whole WNBA. That's why the timing is hilarious. The Fever are dealing with injuries everywhere, and suddenly the face of the league is walking back in. Talk about storylines. The league is practically begging for her to get back. And now the moment's here. And it took Sophie Cunningham's injury and Lexie Hull turning into Rocky Balboa to finally push it over the edge. But let's not gloss over Stephanie White here. She deserves credit, too. She's been juggling this roster like a circus act, bringing in Odyssey Sims, working Shaw Petty into the rotation, leaning on Kelsey Mitchell to do everything short of driving the team bus. White openly said they had to simplify their playbook because of all the constant lineup changes. That's code for, half my roster is new, so I can't run anything too complicated. And still, the Fever are in the playoff hunt. So when White says Caitlin Clark is coming back, it's not just coach optimism, it's reality. She knows she needs Clark to stabilize everything. She knows the league needs Clark back on the floor. And she knows the Fever's only real shot at making noise in the postseason depends on Clark being Clark again. And you know what? Clark coming back now, after weeks of haters calling her overhyped while she was sidelined, is poetic. They've been running their mouths about how the Fever are better without her. Newsflash, no, they aren't. Without her, they're a scrappy team trying to stay above water. With her, they're must-watch basketball. That's the difference between a team with a star and a team without one. All right, let's get into the real juice. What Clark's return actually means. The Indiana Fever, without her, have been like a car running on 3 wheels. They can move forward, but every bump in the road feels like a disaster. Sophie Cunningham's injury stole one of their scrappiest defenders and loudest voices. Lexie Hull, still battling through, has become living proof that the Fever's injury luck is cursed, 2 black eyes swelling, and yet she refuses to sit. Don't forget Ari McDonald and the other depth pieces sidelined too. Stephanie White said it herself. The margin for error is 0. Enter Caitlin Clark. This isn't just a nice boost. It's the team's entire identity coming back. When Clark steps on the floor, defenses warp. Opponents have to pick their poison. Guard her 30-foot shooting range, watch Aaliyah Boston feast in the paint, or collapse on Boston and get burned by Clark raining threes. Without her, teams can stack the paint, dare the Fever to shoot, and survive. With her, everything opens up. Stephanie White basically confirmed this is exactly what the Fever have been missing. She even said Clark's return will allow them to run their system properly instead of relying on duct tape basketball. That's coach speak for. I've been holding this thing together, but I need my star quarterback back, and it couldn't come at a better time. The Fever are staring down the playoff stretch. Every game matters. One winter loss could mean the difference between sneaking into the postseason or heading home early. Clark knows it. White knows it. Even the haters know it. That's why the confirmation of her return instantly grabbed headlines. Now, about the haters, they've been loud. The story they've pushed, the Fever are more balanced without Clark, or she needs to prove herself against physical play. Funny how ratings tank when she's not on the floor. Funny how road arenas only sell out when she's on the schedule. Funny how ESPN clips of Fever games without Clark barely exist. The reality? Simple. The WNBA is more compelling with Clark, and the Fever are far more dangerous with Clark. Period. Sophie Cunningham's absence only intensified the urgency. Sophie brought toughness, that spark every team needs. Without her, the Fever are missing a plug. White admitted losing Sophie left a leadership void. Add Lexie Hull literally playing with her face rearranged. And suddenly it's clear, this team needs Clark not just for her play, but for her leadership. She might only be in year 2, but the impact is already enormous. But she's already the emotional heartbeat of the franchise. Now, with Clark returning, the Fever shift from scrappy survivors to legitimate contenders. Nobody's handing them a title, but if she's firing on all cylinders, they can upset anyone in a series. Why? Because Clark is the kind of player who can flip a game in 5 minutes. One hot stretch, a flurry of logo threes, a sequence of no-look assists, and just like that, momentum evaporates for the other team. That's why the Fever's ceiling skyrockets when she's on the floor. Zooming out to the league level, the WNBA has been holding its breath for her return. Networks need her. Sponsors need her. Ticket sales scream her impact. And the fact that Coach White confirmed it right after multiple injuries? Pure drama fuel. It sets up that hero returns to save the day storyline. Corny? Maybe. True? Absolutely. The league can't afford Clark being sidelined too long. We've seen the consequences. Games lose buzz, storylines stall, coverage falters. Not her fault. This is the league missing marketing opportunities. For now, though, Clark is the engine. And when White said she's back, you can bet every ESPN executive exhaled in relief. The league's golden ticket is striding back onto the court. And let's sprinkle in a little sarcasm. Remember when people said Clark was all hype, that she'd fizzle after her rookie year? Yeah, how's that working out? She missed half a season and still dominates every conversation. Other stars are balling. Aya Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Angel Reese, but somehow every storyline loops back to Clark. That's not clever marketing. That's raw, undeniable demand. You can't fake it. Her return sends a message to her teammates. 2, Lexie Hull grinding through pain. Sophie Cunningham sidelined. Aaliyah Boston carrying extra weight. What does Clark stepping back on the floor mean for them? Reinforcements. Relief. They're not just clawing for wins anymore. They're competing at full strength. That energy lifts the entire locker room. Fever fans have been starving for this. Attendance numbers are solid, but you can feel the tension. They want more than scrappy effort. They want to cheer for a contender. Clark's return signals the wait is over. The Real run begins now, and she's not coming back quietly. Clark has seen the commentary, the critics, every highlight replayed 1,000 times, every talking head questioning her readiness. Do you think she's stepping back just to participate? No way. She's coming back with a chip on her shoulder, ready to prove them all wrong. Things are about to get spicy. Now, the playoff math shows her impact in stark relief. Without Clark, the Fever might be scraping for the last seed. With her, they move up a slot or 2. That might not sound monumental, but in the playoffs, that's the difference between facing a juggernaut or a beatable opponent in round 1. Matchups matter. And Clark gives the Fever the firepower to swing them. Stephanie White knows this. That's why she emphasizes discipline, ball movement, and finishing through contact in her presser. These are exactly the areas where Clark transforms the game. Her presence stretches defenses, her playmaking keeps the ball flowing, and her competitiveness pushes teammates to match her intensity. White can simplify the system all she wants, but with Clark, the ceiling skyrockets. And don't underestimate the fan factor. Fever home games with Clark? Loud, chaotic, electric, an atmosphere the league lives for. Without her, the crowd feels flat, like someone hit the pause button. White even admitted that energy matters, and Clark doesn't just bring points, she brings atmosphere. She brings pressure on opponents, the kind of intangible boost you can't measure but feel in every possession. This is huge, season-defining, league-shifting, exactly the comeback the haters didn't want to see. Clark back in the mix, ready to drag the Fever into playoff contention while half the roster heals up. Cunningham will be out. Hull will keep grinding. But with Clark confirmed, suddenly everything feels possible again. There it is. Coach Stephanie White officially confirmed Caitlin Clark's return at the moment the Fever needed her most. With Sophie Cunningham sidelined and Lexie Hull battered, but still battling, the timing couldn't be more perfect. The league is about to get noisy again. What do you think? With Clark back, are the Fever playoff bound? Drop your thoughts.